Buckley Hammond is joining us, reporting from the Midwest. He's been in Chicago the last few days, talking to locals on the street, and he filed this report we're about to premiere today, dealing with hidden microphones that we first discovered decades ago, going up around the country. I guess 1998, so that's about 15, 16 years ago. But we know they went in decades ago and test. Now they're going in by the thousands per city, from Boston to Dallas, Texas, from Chicago to L.A., and they're keyword software logging along with bundles of cell receivers, and are also grabbing everybody's data. We broke that with Mikhail Phelan last year, investigative journalist, with the secret Homeland Security documents that became national news. Now they're playing dumb, saying they don't know what they are in Chicago or who put up these sculptures and cell towers. We have the grants. It's Homeland Security. That's how dumb they think you are. So now that you are admitting that they're microphones, they're spinning it, calling them gunshot detectors, because, of course, you can run that software over a microphone as well. So technically that's true, but they're not telling you the rest of the story. Buckley Hammond for Infowars.com break down this report we're all about to see and hear.
Well, you know, this is you totally hit the nail on the head, and this story I think is a lot bigger than what people realize, because just like you're saying, each time that they roll these systems out, they try to sort of spin it and try to make people think that it's some sort of beneficial circumstance that they're trying to ameliorate or something. Because you know, one of the polls that we walked up on had a big whole sign that was talking about how it was better for the environment because it uses solar energy and wind energy. But it's really just to sort of, initially pierce the consciousness of the people so that they walk around and they see something and then they think it's innocuous, and they don't realize that it's actually eroding their freedoms. And speaking of the people in Chicago, you know, I've spent the better part of the last decade up in Chicago, and they are just wonderful, honest, salt-of-the-earth people. They're really intelligent, and so much creativity and warmth, you know, from the people in Chicago and in the Midwest in general.
You fell in love with Chicago.
Absolutely. I have a lot of admiration for the people up there. But, you know, one of the things that's really interesting is that when we shot this report and even walking around and talking to people, to a person, every single one of the people that we talked to was aghast. They were horrified that these programs were being rolled out, especially when, I sort of described what the ultimate result and goal and possibilities.
We're going to come back and talk about that after the report, but that's the good news. The people are against it, but the system is still doing it. That's why they want to keep it secret. We're not keeping it secret. Here's the report.
Chicago, the quintessential American city, renowned for its innovative architecture, art, and culture of honest, hard-working people. Something is not right in this all-American city. There's a quiet technological program that is slowly being rolled out that will further erode the privacy and rights of its citizens. We hit the streets to find out the real story. Here we are at Benito Juarez High School in Chicago, where behind me you can see one of these technological light poles that's been installed. This right here is billed as a hybrid system, and supposedly all it does is it collects energy through wind and solar to create ambient lighting in the evenings. These systems are usually introduced as a guise for collecting large metadata or for somehow helping the environment in one way or another, when we know that the truth is altogether more sinister. First, it'll be a system like this. Next, it'll be a system that's just collecting metadata like the NSA says. And then they'll go beyond that to introduce their complete and total totalitarian system right here in the heartland of America. Behind me is an example of one of the most nefarious systems that's been installed in Chicago. This is a speed camera. These cameras were installed on the streets of Chicago against a major public outcry. These cameras, in addition to the red light cameras, are just more robots using automation to slowly strip you of your right to privacy. And many conclusive studies have actually found that it makes driving even more dangerous. This pole right here is a perfect example of a totalitarian system that's put in against the will of the people to take your rights away. Now let's talk about the sculptures that are going to be tracking all the data on our cell phones as we walk by. Sculpture. It stirs the senses, and as art can feed the soul. Usually we think of it as a passive object, innocuous. Or is it? The Chicago Tribune reported that this program was being rolled out into the core of the city. Sensors disguised as decorative sculpture would scoop up big data on the surrounding environment and the people passing below. The sensors would be enabled to observe cell phone traffic and collect data on pedestrian behavior. These spy devices would be positioned in the highest traffic areas downtown, along the corridor of the Magnificent Mile and the surrounding loop. The proponents of the system argue that their intentions are pure, that the data gathered would be used only for better understanding the environment and nothing more. However, privacy advocates warn of potential abuses, and that setting this precedence would open the door for further digital intrusion. The most disturbing aspect of this program is that it seems it will be implemented with little oversight and almost no public consent. Here we are across the street from the Tribune newspaper building, who published the article about the sculptures that are going to contain the sensors that are collecting your data. We're going to ask some people here in Chicago on the street what they think about that idea. So Chicago is going to be implementing a program where they're going to be putting up sensors on light poles that are disguised as sculptures that's going to be collecting your data as you walk by off of your cell phone. How do you feel about that?
Well, I think that this is a complete invasion of privacy. I mean, whatever I'm doing on my phone is my business. It's not the government's business, and it most certainly isn't the people of the world's business.
No, that's far out. I haven't heard anything about sensors on statues. That's crazy. But now that I think about it, it doesn't surprise me. Everything collects your data these days.
I think it's a really big invasion of privacy. It's kind of unfair. A lot of people have a lot of private stuff on their phones, important information that can really just mess them up if that ever gets into the wrong hands.
I honestly think that that is very dangerous because a lot of people don't have protection on their phones, so it can easily take the information off of your phone and be used for anything and you wouldn't even know it.
I haven't heard of the program, but it's very intrusive in my opinion because everyone's entitled to their own, privacy, so if they can just access it, that's not good.
To be quite frank, I think you're invading people's privacy.
In light of all the recent celebrity scandals where protected information has leaked, would you trust Chicago with your private information?
No, not at all. I wouldn't even trust my friends with it, so I wouldn't trust I wouldn't trust, Chicago. We don't know what they're doing, and they're not going to tell us, so.
No, not at all. Celebrity or no celebrity, it's just an invasion of people's privacy. We should be able to live normal lives without having to worry about a sculpture, having a camera inside of it.
Probably not. I'm pretty private about my data. Yeah.
I wouldn't trust my own neighbor with my personal information. I mean, I can't trust Apple, who's a large corporation who's supposed to secure my information, and I can't have photos on my phone without being publicized. Yes, that does go back to proper parenting, but that's no one's business but my own.
No, because there's so many people here that we're all just kind of numbers in a way, and it's like they can do whatever they want.
No, I don't trust Chicago with a lot of things.
Any way to avoid it is the best way.
Talk to the Chicago board and tell them not to put, things on our sculptures, and our privacy is important to us.
Don't do it. It's kind of bad. They'd get a lot of negative response to it. It's just not going to work out.
Make sure you check your privacy notifications and guard your data. That's your information, so you should be protecting it as much as you can.
Leave us alone. Sorry.
I would say prepare to go to the next election and vote for the people who support your privacy and who aren't trying to impose on every person's life and their liberties.
Thank you very much. There you have it. So as you can see, there are always people that are trying to take our freedoms and penetrate our privacy by rolling out these quiet programs where they take something as innocuous as sculpture and try to use it against us. This is Buckley Hammond signing off for Infowars.com.
That's right, and they do it premeditatedly, illegally, and then tell us it doesn't exist. These people want to, I want to throw up. I just get Apple off the screen. And all these companies are bad news at that level, but Apple is just particularly nasty and surveilling us. And Buckley, that leads us to the next level. The Apple iPhone 6, the new wristwatch, it admittedly tracks and watches you in their rollout, and you buy and sell with your thumb. Do people realize how much danger we're all in?
Well, it's interesting because it seemed like when I was talking to a lot of people, they were very conscious and aware of their privacy. And I was just looking over this, the Apple blog about the release, and something really struck me. There was this statement on there where it says the iPhone 6 can judge distance and elevation so you can get credit for flights of stairs and all of those fitness apps. Well, that instantly, I just thought back to like, man, if...
It's carbon credits taxing us like THX 1138 on our amount of exercise, and all that data is to be given to the insurance companies. This is the total surveillance grid taxing you for drinking beer. It's here. Apple is the UN. They are Satan. They are the devil. They are horrible. They run death camps. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, all that is true, but, it's so interesting that technology, like just about everything, is a double-edged sword. In fact, I shot that report that we just watched on an iPhone, and so it's amazing that I could just have a microphone, plug it into my iPhone. My fiance was the camera person, and she shot it, and, we edited it and put it up, and it wasn't probably the best report ever in the span of humanity, but it's pretty amazing with the technology, what you can use it for if you use it correctly. And what I think...
Exactly. Again, it's got all the little pieces of tech that engineers developed are great. But put together, fused, it is a tool of Sauron. It is designed to enslave. And it's built in death factories.
Yes, I think that's a really reprehensible aspect of it. One of the things that I think is the most important is that it's up to us to pass on to the next generation the principles of liberty so that they understand
the foundation. It's up to jailbreak the phones. It's up to block the bad apps. It's up to us to tear those things apart and use them against the New World Order. If you've got an Apple product, especially, folks, and I like them over the others as well, you've got to use it against Apple. I know that sounds weird, but I'm saying we know it's an evil device. We know what it's for. We try to turn it towards as much good as possible. Does that mean the Ring can be used for good? Only for a season. But I'm being honest about my hypocrisy. Go ahead.
Well, like anything, I think there's, two ends of the spectrum. On one end, you have the transhumanists who are urging us to move towards a singularity where man melds with machine. And then on the other end, you have us info warriors. And even though we're often accused of being Luddites by people that are real excited about technology, it's not true. It's about the fundamental use of technology.
We don't like designing technology to be anti-human and not include... Listen, the real transhumanists, not the pop ones, but the real ones are just eugenicists. It was founded by eugenicists. Does the average transhumanist even know who founded... No, they don't. It's Julian Huxley, the head of UNESCO, the head of the UN, the same people that run Apple, the same people with Bono or gonorrhea or whatever his name is. This is what we're talking about. I know what's going on. I've done the research. Ignore it at your own peril. The globalists have controlled the mainstream media for a long time, but now they're expanding, making the weaponization even more vicious and deceptive. All the major networks are state-run.
We are partnering this year with the NFL.
The NFL has become a political weapon against the Second Amendment and pushes Obamacare. MSNBC tells us that our children belong to the state.
We have to break through our kind of private idea that kids belong to their parents or kids belong to their families and recognize that kids belong to whole communities.
The brainwashing media machine has been turned up on high, and it's time for humanity to double down on the true people's media and strike back against the tyrants that are destroying our civilization with their lies and fraud. We are the resistance. You are the resistance. You are the info war. It is more important than ever to realize that we are not the alternative media. We are the true media. The establishment dinosaur press is dying.
We are in an information war, and we are losing that war.
Join us at InfoWarsNews.com and PrisonPlanet.tv. Members can share their memberships with up to 11 people. By subscribing, you will literally be buying war bonds in the info war to expand our operation in the face of the tyrants. Join us at PrisonPlanet.tv.